I'm hoping that I can answer all of your questions today. I will give a brief presentation on DePaul. I'll talk a little bit about Chicago, which, as you'll see, is a big part of who we are as a university. And then I will go over the admission procedures and entry requirements for direct entry to the university at both the undergraduate and postgraduate levels. And then I think that Mint will go over some of the requirements and procedures for applying through the Pathway program. She might have already said all of this to you, but it stopped me. So this is kind of a little bit about what I'm going to cover today in my presentation. So an overview of the university, talking about what makes us unique or our distinctive character as an institution, covering our 2 campus locations in Chicago, talking a little bit about the academic programs that we offer, student life. Obviously, that's something that your students and their families will want to know, is what is it going to be like when I get to Chicago or to DePaul. Outcomes, that's another thing that is more and more something that comes up on people's radar, like we're making this huge investment of time and money. What am I going to get out of it afterwards? Is it going to be worth my time? Obviously, they want to be able to get gainful employment, make good money. So those are some things that we really focus on at DePaul. And then, like I said, I will cover the admission procedures after that. So I kind of did a little bit to feel around the room in terms of how much you guys know about DePaul. And it ranged from everything from I just found out about DePaul, that it exists, to I've had students apply to DePaul, or I've worked with DePaul through our former partner, or through our English Language Academy. So varying levels of knowledge about the university. So bear with me if you're one of those seasoned veterans that knows a little bit more about our institution. I'm going to do my best to cover a little bit of everything. So we've been around since 1898, so pretty well-established institution. We are the largest Catholic university in the United States, but only about 30% of our students identify as Catholic. So it's kind of, depending on how much knowledge you have of the university system in the US, you may or may not know that a lot of universities were founded in religious traditions, but may or may not be that much religious in practice. So we welcome students of faiths from any background, and it is not required that you're Catholic or that you attend Mass or anything like that. We are also the 14th largest private university in the US. We've got about 22,000 students on our campus, and I'll get a little bit more into how that comes out in practice in terms of our institution in later slides. But we are the largest university. One thing I want to point out, so we're the largest university in the US whose primary mission is teaching and service. So one thing that does set us apart from a lot of other large universities in the US is that we're not focused on research. A lot of you might hear the words large public research institution. How many of you have heard that before about a university in the US? Maybe. It's something that people say a lot. So a lot of the public universities that are state-sponsored universities, their primary focus is doing research, not educating undergraduate students. Even though that is something that they do, their main focus is going to be on research and furthering fields in terms of research, scientific studies, which is great, and there's definitely a need for that. But at DePaul, we're a teaching institution, so that means when you send students to us, our main focus is going to be making sure that they learn what they need to be successful. Here are some facts and figures about us so you can kind of get an idea a little bit more about our institution. We're made up of 10 colleges and schools. We have students from all 50 states, and it's actually more than 110 countries that are studying now at DePaul. Like I said, about 22,000 students. We offer over 300 undergraduate and graduate programs, and we have alumni worldwide at almost 200,000 people. So that means that there's a really good network of people all around the world who know DePaul, who have come from the DePaul family. I actually just finished having lunch with one of our first Thai alumni who did his MBA on our campus in the mid-1990s. So every time I come to Bangkok, we try to get together. He loves talking about his time in Chicago, loves talking about DePaul, And then Mint was telling me that they just bumped into another DePaul alumnus who is here from the US doing a seminar in another room just here on this floor. So it's not uncommon actually for me as someone traveling for DePaul around Asia 4 or 5 times a year to bump into people who come up to me at fairs, either parents of students or teachers, counselors in the high schools that I visit, people at the public fairs, they'll come up and say, I went to DePaul. And so to know that the brand is recognized worldwide is definitely something that our students value. Unlimited amounts during the term time. This can get them pretty much everywhere in the city, including to both of the airports. So you really don't need to have a car at all. But of course we have Uber and Lyft, which is another rideshare service. Obviously there's taxis, but who takes taxis anymore? And then we also just got those electric scooters. I don't know, I saw a couple of people riding them here actually. You may have feelings about them one way or the other, but we just got those in Chicago too. And we have bike shares and all kinds of things. If you don't know where Chicago is located, this will give you a clearer picture. Like I said, we're on Lake Michigan, which is that gigantic blob of water that comes down in the northeast corner of the state of Illinois. You can see the flight times from Chicago to a lot of other major cities. One of the things that is great for international students in the fact that we're located in Chicago, it's one of the busiest airports in the world. So that means there's tons of opportunities to fly to Asia, which is very good for me because I come here very often. But great for our students as well. You don't have to spend time connecting in different airports in the US before you get out to the rest of the world. Again, second busiest airport in the country, lots of different nonstop flights, and also like the numbers of flights that are coming in and out does drive down the cost. So it makes it cheaper for students to fly in and out of Chicago, going to and from home and things like that. Now I'll tell you a little bit about where we're located in the city of Chicago. Maybe a couple of you who've been there will know where these areas are. If not, I'll tell you a little bit about them. Lincoln Park is the campus where this photo was taken. That guy on the left-hand side is St. Vincent de Paul, where we get our name. You can see that it's a pretty green residential area where the Lincoln Park campus is. And I will show you, I think that there's a little bit more here. The oldest, largest, and most active of the two campuses. We've got about 40 acres and a lot of different buildings. About 3,000 of our students live in our 11 residence halls and apartments that are located in Lincoln Park. We also have one residence hall in the Loop campus, which I'll tell you about in a minute. We do not have a residential requirement on our campus. Some universities in the US will require you to live on campus as an undergraduate student for like at least the first year, sometimes the first 2 or 3 years. At DePaul, it's always optional. About 72% of our first year students do choose to live on campus if they're coming as undergraduates, but it is not required. So that's something to keep in mind. This will show you a map of our Lincoln Park campus. So you can see it is very kind of like self-contained, even though it's within a city neighborhood. It is very kind of tree-lined, and Lincoln Park, this neighborhood is home to the biggest park in the city, Lincoln Park. It's home to a free zoo. It's like free to go in all year long, and it's not too far from the lakefront either on the north side of the city. 15 minutes on the Red Line train, which runs 24 hours a day, every few minutes, that students can go on unlimited amounts with their U-Pass, will take you to, it's a really nice way for our students to, stay connected to home, even though they're in the US most of the year. It also does allow students to complete more credit hours in an academic year than they would in a semester schedule. So very motivated students will actually graduate earlier. I have students who regularly will come in from like the IB curriculum or A-levels because they get credit for those exams towards their bachelor's degree, and they'll easily finish in 3 years instead of 4. And the quarter system is one of the reasons why they are able to do that. It's definitely a lot more flexible than a semester schedule. So, like I mentioned, we're the largest teaching university. 98% of our classes are taught by faculty. So that's another thing that sets us apart from a lot of big universities. Our classes are actually taught by professors, not graduate students or teaching assistants, which is what happens a lot of the time for undergraduates at large research institutions. We have a 15-to-1 student-faculty ratio, and our average class size is actually about 21 students. I think it's like 85% of our classes have fewer than 40 students. So even though we are a large university, we do provide a very unique and intimate academic environment for a university of our size. So that's something else that a lot of times students do find really beneficial in studying at DePaul. I already mentioned that we have over 300 academic programs. It's about 130 plus undergrad majors, over 175 graduate. We offer over 100 programs where students have an option to do a combined degree. So if you're working with a student who's in high school who wants to come to the US for possibly both their undergraduate and their graduate or postgraduate qualification, they can actually complete both at DePaul in 5 years instead of the normal 6, because usually it will take 4 for a bachelor's, 2 for a master's. If they stay and complete both, they basically do 3 years of undergraduate study. They start their graduate level study in their 4th year. At the end of the 4th year, they're awarded their bachelor's degree. At the end of their 5th year, they're awarded their master's. Okay? So we have a lot of different options where students. I already mentioned we have a College of Education, which actually I do get asked a fair amount about when I come to Thailand. Computing and digital media, that's our second most popular after business in this market. Liberal arts and social sciences, communication, science and health. Our School of Music and our theater school are conservatory programs, performance-based degrees. So those two programs, or those two areas, require auditions for the admission process. Familiar with the STEM classification and how that allows students in the US to get an additional 2 years of work experience after their first year of OPT. All of these programs at the undergraduate level are STEM designated at DePaul. One thing that's important to know when you're helping students apply is that just because animation is designated as a STEM program at DePaul does not mean it is at every university in the US that offers animation, okay? So please be aware of that, and you can definitely ask admission people programs that we offer. There are a few on both of the lists that I found to be a little bit surprising. There are a few different ways that students can apply to DePaul, both direct study English language, if they want to do that, or they can also apply for conditional admission to either an undergraduate or graduate program, which basically just means, and you probably know this, that their English level is just below what's required for direct admission, but they meet the academic requirements for the program. So if they're admitted conditionally, then they would come and take a few classes in our English language program before matriculating directly into the degree with no additional application required. Any questions about that? Like most universities in the US, we offer a wealth of support programs for our students, including our international students. So we've done and trying to do that for those who are less fortunate than us. So it's a big part of who we are as a university. Our students are definitely really involved in the community, as well as our staff and faculty. I don't think I know anybody that I work with who isn't part of some kind of nonprofit or charity organization onto the campus to talk to them. We couldn't really make it any easier. This is just one photo from one of the career fairs that our College of Business had recently. You can kind of see there we have about 4,500 student internships a year that students are doing. These are our most recent statistics for employment. We actually have a live tool on our website now where you can drill down by program to see specific statistics for employment in different degrees that DePaul offers. So I really encourage you to check that out on our Career Center website because that's new. But this will give you an overall picture for the undergraduate class of 2017. The employment rate was 92%, and you can kind of see the median starting salaries for students right after they graduated in different programs. You can also see examples of employers that they're working for if you go to the website. And then this was for the graduate class of 2017. A few more statistics there. All right, admission requirements. Does anyone have any questions about DePaul or Chicago before I get into the application process? Graduate students, you've all heard of the Common Application? Yes? So if you haven't heard of it, the Common Application is an online application platform that a bunch of universities in the US subscribe to, so students can fill out one profile of themselves and apply to multiple universities, so that makes it really easy for them. It's easier for us too. Our deadline for early action, which is a non-binding program, is November 15th. The Common App opens August 1st for every university that's on the Common App. So anytime from August 1st, students can apply. February 1st is our regular notification deadline, but I will let you know we accept students on a space available basis after February 1st. So we still have rolling admission for undergraduate students after that point. So the February 1st deadline is not a hard deadline. Students need to have their official high school transcripts. If they were issued in a language that's not English, they also need to provide an English translation. And then they need to show their English proficiency. So you can see the cutoffs for direct admission to the undergraduate programs there. They can submit the TOEFL, the IELTS, or if they've taken the ACT or SAT, they can submit that for proof of English. But we do not require the SAT or ACT for admission. That's the only thing we would use it for, is English language proficiency. Any questions about freshman admission? It's pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay. Apply online. Okay, so this is the transfer admission procedure. So do you guys ever get students who've started university here and want to transfer and finish their bachelor's degree in the US? Sometimes, maybe. Or I guess you might have someone who started at another school in the US and they want to transfer to DePaul, maybe. And so we can take students who are transferring from a US college or university or from an international university. If they've only studied at a US school, we just need their transcripts. If they studied outside the US at the university level, then we need a course-by-course evaluation from one of those evaluation providers. And then we also need to see proof of their English proficiency from one of these options here. Now, here's where it gets fun. The graduate admission procedures can vary depending on the program. So I know that's everybody's favorite answer is, well, it depends. Which is like what we always say in the US when we're talking about applying. There's not one blanket procedure for every university. We don't have UCAS. So for graduate programs at DePaul, it depends on what degree the student's interested in, what requirements there are. The good news for you guys is that you don't have to memorize it. It's all on the website. So, and our website's actually, I think it's pretty easy to navigate, but if you ever can't find what you need, I think most of you have my business card, but you also have the contact information for study group. So you can definitely reach out and we'd be happy to link you to the right information. Or an employer. And then for certain Masters of Science programs that are listed here, they also would need a GMAT score. So not every program would require a GMAT score, okay? Any questions about the Graduate School of Business admission requirements? Cool. All right. The College of Computing and Digital Media. Again, official transcripts if they've studied in the U.S. or course-by-course evaluation, not from Wes, if they studied outside the U.S. for their bachelor's. And then for those programs listed at the top, they need a GMAT. Only those programs, PhD or the MS Computational Finance. And then these other programs have additional requirements, and you need to look on the website to see what those are. It's a little too complicated to put it all on a slide. Any questions about any of that? Okay, I'm going to finish up here in a second because I know we're going to have a coffee break. Everyone can stretch their legs. I mentioned conditional admission, so just very briefly, these are the requirements. Again, they're all listed on the website as well, but feel free to take a photo if you need to. How much does it cost? Wow. I will say that most students who come study at the undergraduate level at DePaul will not be paying this price. We automatically consider all of our students for scholarships when they're applying directly. They range from $13,000 to $23,000 per year, so they're renewable scholarships, and they're based on their academic performance and